Today's show focuses on the fact that Elon actually filed in September of this year to sell Tesla shares as part of the options he had gotten. So the reason for this is that it's part of being a public company and being on a board of directors. So those shares were sold, and that makes sense. The issue, though, is that Tesla stock price was actually tanked by 20% by Elon heading into those sales. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Your support is greatly appreciated and makes all the difference for us to be effective. We also wanted to note, if you'd like some good trade ideas and investing ideas as the week goes on, please join us on Patreon. We also wanted to note that this is a copyrighted broadcast. Any use of the information provided is prohibited. So today's show is kind of strange, different, as can be the case with Tesla over time and Elon. As you'll recall, 2 years ago in February, there was an episode where earnings came out. Tesla was doing great. There was first an incident where Elon came out and he said, "Hey, I think the stock is too high." After he said that, the stock price fell, 75 to 100 points, depends on time of the day. But then there was a comment made by a short on Tesla where he pointed out, hey, there's a problem with Tesla's accounting, and we'd like to see more disclosure because I think there's some SEC violations potentially. This added to the downdraft for Tesla for another 100 points. So that was sort of round one of many rounds, typically that occur on a quarterly basis, once every 90 days, where Tesla has I would say Elon has kind of a crisis of confidence, if you will, and we get sort of situations pop up in this manner. So the thought process I had on the show was sort of, let's review circumstances that have occurred, i.e. facts, and then let's go to the interpretation afterwards. So if you look at the series of events that have happened over the last 3 weeks, clearly earnings came out. Stock was doing well. It was supposed to be in the $1,000 range after earnings. And then as more production came on to justify a growing stock price, we kind of went from there. So what then happened was, obviously the Hertz announcement came out about the 100,000 vehicles. And it's my belief that what happened here with those numbers is that first you had, the announcement by Hertz of the 100,000 vehicles that were going to be purchased. But number two, if that went well, there's a possibility that Hertz would end up buying more Teslas. But it also put competitors to Hertz and Uber in a difficult competitive position where, in theory, there's going to be a need for at least another 100,000 vehicles a year to satiate demand from competing firms to Hertz. So all of this resulted in a nice bump in Tesla's stock price of another 200 points. It's not exact, but let's call it Tesla was up 20%. So if you have $1,000 stock, 20% of that is 200 points. The stock was, 1230-ish as this all went down. What then happened was that the Silicon Valley Tesla Owners Club came up with a brilliant idea of sending a picture of the stock and thank you on Twitter to Elon as a way to brown nose a little bit. And as you know, Elon's response to that was, no, the deal with Hertz has not been signed. And so, if your thank you is based on this, it's misplaced. So as we know, the stock price started falling kind of hard after this occurred. And then we had finally the Twitter poll that happened a few days ago over the weekend, I guess on Friday of last week, followed by Tesla or Elon selling, I guess, $5 billion worth of shares. And so we're now in an interesting position where basically the Hertz announcement that pushed the stock price up, then Elon saying the stock price was too high, and then this whole Twitter announcement thing, basically we pushed the stock back down basically 20% in the process of all of this. And this is kind of strange because it was announced that, again, when you're on the board, not even the CEO of all these companies, you'll notice all the board members of Tesla have an orderly process that they report to the SEC when they're going to be selling shares. And so it's not a sale immediately. They typically have a certain period that they can announce or report these sales. And then those sales occur. So all the current sales that you're seeing are months in advance noted to the SEC that they would be occurring, so other investors could look and see what the trend is and determine if they still want to invest in the company afterwards. So so basically Elon in essence tanked the stock by 20%-ish. It might be 10, 15%, and then he sells a whole bunch of shares. So the question that is arising is, why would you cut the value of the company and then sell shares rather than let the share sale or exercise that you had pre-planned happen and only then make comments that would be disparaging to the stock and its stock price? Excelente question. So my argument on this is twofold. Well, number one is boredom, and number two is equilibrium. So as we mentioned at our last show, one of the challenges Elon has is that he was from a middle-class family in South Africa. And so basically his equilibrium on how to live, what life looks like, is the 3-2 single family home that he's currently living in near the SpaceX headquarters in Boca Chica. So for him, the definition of an equilibrium from his family standpoint is a house like that. So a mansion, all these other things he can easily afford, but they really don't fit him in terms of his personality driven by the environment he grew up in. So all the excess is really great to have, and on a limited basis he exploits it, but he really enjoys the work he does, and he's in essence trying to find his way back to what is his personal and his family sense of equilibrium. So that's one of the arguments that we're making in terms of what is going on here. The second component, I believe, and we've been somewhat predicting this and stopped doing so recently, but we have to get back to it, and that is what I call boredom. So Elon, if you look at the history of the company over time, he's done things like the gull wings, like the door handles that kept getting frozen on the Model S. There are all these sort of things that Elon's done over time that are kind of interesting, kind of cool. But the challenge is that, taking over the company for $420 a share 3 years ago is another example. So there are certain people that are sort of battleships. They're built for mega, challenges in a lot of ways. And Elon is one of those people, and he's shown it over time that he's an excellent executive and can handle numbers, etc. So why do all this? And I call it boredom. I have a friend of mine, his dad and I have been friends for a long time, and he went to Stanford for business school. And we had a conversation a year or two ago, and he said, I asked him about his job plans. He had gotten some fairly senior corporate positions early out of Stanford Business School. and had done very well. And then he left the corporate world, and I asked him, well, why did you bail? Because you'd be at a very senior management position by now. And he said, boredom. He said the problem with a lot of the big corporate jobs is that once the key problem is solved or anticipatorily problem solved, I just don't have any interest anymore. So I prefer to operate as a consultant than be a full-time executive, because the block of time you use to demonstrate your skills is very limited, because the major decisions that should be made take a lot of research and an implementation, and you're done. And then you're really sort of sitting around setting up for the next round of decision making, possibly. But it's complete boredom to have all the skills I have for problem solving and not be able to use them on a regular basis. So it's nice to parachute into situation after situation that I can be a part of solving. So if you watch Elon, you'll notice that the more stable and operating well Tesla is, he tends to, if there isn't a major fight or fight within the company, it seems like one of his things is, let me find a way to create a fire that I can put out. Hence, we end up with this interesting situation where the stock is bouncing around, because he enjoys the process of, if you will, tanking the stock and then delivering the performance to validate the higher prices. And so this brings up one of the concepts that we've presented, which is, should you carry a few puts, especially when the stock is at or near its high? And the reason is that we actually don't know what Elon's going to do for sure. And he seems to have a crisis of confidence, or whatever you want to call it, that results in him making moves or making statements that sort of destroy shareholder value. So there's been a discussion that they should take away his Twitter account, or it should be carefully managed. And I think that this is another illustration of that being the case. The core production capability, preparation, execution of Tesla remains strong, but I just kind of stunned, amazed at what we're seeing from him in this regard. So I'd have to say I'm looking forward to somehow this working out, but we now have an incident that occurred now. 90 days from now, something weird is going to happen, and you heard it here first. So I look forward to your your indulgence as we get back into it. By the way, where we're at from an option standpoint right now is what I call beautiful straddle. The stock price is at least 100 points off what it should be based on its growth rate. And so a straddle here, buying one put, one call at the same price point, go out 2 or 3 weeks and watch as an experiment, because I think you'll see some monster returns. Even if one side of the trade goes slim to none in value, the other side will rise enough to pay for the whole thing with a nice return, is what I believe is going to occur. So I look forward to hopefully us getting into not having this conversation again. But like I said, we seem to have an every 90-day-ish Elon sort of meltdown in this fashion. And unfortunately, I think that we're just preparing now that it's occurred for our next round of this process. So at any rate, I want to thank you for taking time to review this Equilibrium Challenge 2.0 for Elon, especially because he didn't wait to tank the stock. He tanks the stock before he had already scheduled the sale of shares. And I guess I also thought it was weird, the whole Twitter poll, because the timing of the sale fit. As I said, the SEC announced plan back in September, but I guess it was kind of fun to introduce it in a backdoor way as a Twitter poll decision. Next, we want to review, number one, we do have some SpaceX shares if there's interest. We also wanted to note that there's this is a copyrighted broadcast. Number 3, also wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe, and comments are appreciated, but insuring or hedging your portfolio is not a bad idea when Tesla's doing great, because Elon's a little bit uncomfortable with everything going great. He likes things to fix. And now the question is he crazy? Is he not? Stock price is down slightly. And then we hit him with the great numbers out of Germany and Austin, and all of a sudden people are like, he's nuts. They're going to have to face up to the fact that it's a great company. And for those who own the vehicles and that own the stock, they're really happy with the combination and how that's working out. So we'll definitely keep you updated on this. A final note, wanted to review our health tips. As you know, we've been doing the guitar playing, and I wanted to encourage you. For those of you who are good friends, we're doing the leg lifts every day. We're doing core work every day as part of your health regimen. I want to remind you, it's only $34 on Amazon for your own guitar, and it takes about 15 minutes to learn how to play Ode to Joy that I have described to you, and numerous people are showing it, including myself. And I wanted to encourage you to use this as a health management for a brain, as in Alzheimer and other things, to have new neural pathways being developed by that exposure. At any rate, we have the rest of our list below. In our list, want to thank you for joining us today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, lehitro, tiber, hoda, hafez, farsi, strasi, Russian, ni hao ma, Chinese, konbanwa, Japanese, heido, Swedish, namaste, Hindi, asante, and in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.